Hello, I am Sasha Emerson. I'm the Associate Artistic Producer of the Ojai Playwrights Conference. I'm also a dramaturge and a member of the Reading Committee, and that is something that all three of us, Liza Powel O'Brien and Jay Holtham, share. We have been part of that committee together as colleagues for, I don't know how many years you are, Jay, but Liza and I are on year 11. And I think I'm on year 15, and I feel like you're 5 or 6.
I'm on like 3 or 4, something like that.
Wow. Well, so Jay Holtham is a playwright and dramaturge and television writer and reading committee person who has just joined our staff at OPI in a more permanent position as a kind of a resident dramaturge. And Liza, who is our playwright this year in the Foundry Project with Apostrophe, started with us in 2011, where she's been a dramaturg twice, a playwright once with Ruthie Goes Shopping in 2012, and as I said, a reading committee member, where she's read over 1,000 plays, helping us to pick them. So here we are with Foundry Talks 2020. Welcome. And we're just gonna talk about what we've been doing, what we've been up to, and just the wonderful time that we've been sharing along with 2 other colleagues, Kate Bergstrom, our director, and Charlotte Balliet, our fantastic PA. So I'm gonna have Jay start just talking with Liza, and we'll make this just an open group discussion.
Yeah, it was great to be here, and Liza, always great to talk to you. I guess we should probably start off talking about, what has this process been like? Obviously, with the pandemic, we're not at Ojai, we're not all together in a barn somewhere. So how is this this sort of Zoom process working for you?
It's so funny because I had no idea what to expect when it started, and I was thinking, oh, it's 30 people on a Zoom, that's unwieldy, we're not all gonna fit on the same page, blah, blah, blah. And then we all were there for the very first meeting, and I had this like rush of, oh my God, it's Ojai. Like it's certainly not anyone's optimal version of Ojai. I wish we were all, gathered together for the full residency and the beautiful location, but writers are in such a vacuum anyway, and this time is extra isolating, obviously, for everyone. So to approximate a sense of community, even virtually, it's a lifesaver, really. I mean, it is the best thing that I've got going, for sure.
How is your sort of day-to-day process? Because you've been really productive in this last year with 2 full-length plays. One that we wanted to bring to Ojai, and because of called The Great Experiment, and because of prior commitments, we couldn't bring it to Ojai, but then we were thrilled that you had one right behind that we loved equally well. So how does your sort of day-to-day writing routine differ in your regular life to your COVID life to your Ojai Zoom Foundry Project life?
At the beginning, the sort of shutdown was really, really beneficial for me. And it's almost embarrassing to say, but I had even more time than usual to work, which is why Apostrophe was finished relatively quickly. I think it took 3 months really to finish it. And then now with the Foundry, I think because I'm focused on, the group meetings and the feedback, and I'm not exactly in a writing groove, even though I am doing revisions to Apostrophe, and I'll continue to do those, obviously, but I haven't really moved on to anything new. But the last time I was at Ojai, I did go to the conference all day long, and then I would write for 8 hours at night, just because I was much newer to it, and I really was trying to find my sea legs. And so this time I'm taking the opposite approach. I'm not trying to multitask too much. And then when it's done, I will have a long morning period and haul myself back to the writing desk and see what I can bring up next.
Yeah. Let's have you go into what your play is about, and then we can circle back to other stuff.
Okay, great. So it's basically about a high school girl who's, there's a very powerful sort of drama teacher at the school who disappears one day, not in a metaphysical way, but in a, removed from the school environment kind of a way. And so the play is really about the void that creates. And it's less interested in the details of what actually may have preceded the exit. So it's not, as opposed to something like Doubt, where, you're really wrestling with getting to the bottom of the truth of that moment. It's less interested in that and more interested in the really confusing, blurry lines that exist around adults and adolescence and intimacy and agency, and also sort of the blurry lines that exist between self and other when you're in a very close relationship, and that reverberates sort of amongst the different relationships in the play. So, and it's also, it's worrying a little bit about this impulse that we have right now to erase problems, because I really think that's a very dangerous road to go down. So that's what it's about.
All things I know Liza's thinking a lot about as the mother of two teenagers.
Right. Yeah.
With a daughter at an all-girls school. So
Yeah.
I know it's like your plays are insights into also things I just know and feel about you as a human being and as a parent.
Yeah, they say that reliving adolescence through your kids is a whole different level of experiencing it. And it's true, it really opens a window onto it that you can't possibly have when you're going through it yourself. And it's sort of terrifying to watch them. They have a lot of confidence in some ways and they have a lot of doubt in other ways, but they don't know any of that yet. And to know it for them is very hard sometimes. So I write about it instead of burdening her with my concerns.
Yeah.
I hope.
But did you feel in conceiving the play, because your adolescence was so different from their adolescence because of computers and screens and texting and just it's a whole other life experience. And how much did you take that into your...
They're both more connected to the greater world and also less, this generation tends to go out a lot less. They don't experience things or experiment with things. They don't drink as much. They don't drive as much. They stay in, and in a way they're safer, but in another way they're being retarded in a way that I think can be problematic. So it's vastly different, I think, than what we experienced at that age.
You've had the OHI experience, and now you're having the OHI virtual experience. So what are the differences, and how's it working for you?
I think one of the biggest differences, aside from the obvious virtual element, is the protraction of time, that we are usually together for this very intense but relatively brief period of 2 weeks total. And you go through this entire life cycle of a project basically in 2 weeks. And it feels like it's been a very long time, but it really hasn't. And this, we're together for 3 months total, maybe even a little bit longer. And I'm finding that to be really fascinating, to be able to check in with people over a more prolonged period of time, to, sometimes it's hard because somebody's life will tug at them and pull them out of the circle a little bit in a way that wouldn't happen normally. But I think the upside of it is that people have a little bit more time to marinate in their thinking and to realize things about their own work and about other people's work, and to see and experience other things in the world and then bring that back to the group. So I'm excited about, I don't know if this is a possibility, but the potential for this to become a new element for OHI to explore moving forward, that a way for writers to be in conversation over longer chunks of time than just the really intense focused, 1 to 2 week burst of the conference. I live, because I'm in LA and I don't get to go very often to New York or London to see things, I live for the recorded conversations that the National Theater does with their playwrights and their directors. And there's a video series on Paris Review where they interview authors, and it's been crucial to my feeling like I have some kind of help figuring out what I'm doing. And it doesn't even have to be interactive. It's just my watching. So I think that, and I watched Robbie's and I watched Luisa's talks with Bob, and even just in this forum, and I learned things about their plays that we've now been talking about for 6 weeks in close contact that I didn't yet know, just from that kind of a conversation. So I think it's a great tool that we may not even appreciate all of the uses for yet.
Liza, I was wondering what you've sort of learned about your play in this process. You know, we've talked about how long it is, and you have done such great work with it. Yeah, maybe talk a little bit about how deep you've gone and what you're discovering.
I, after the first reading, I said to myself, I really, and I'd heard it a couple of times before, but for some reason it became clear to me after that first reading that we all did together that it's very delicately balanced, that it's I'm always very intentional with everything that I put on the page, whether it comes out the way I mean it to or not. But this one was sort of, because it's about ambiguity and because it's important to be able to see completely opposite views onto a thing and let them both be valid. I just noticed, I think it was because of the discussion, the talk back after the reading, that people were voicing senses of ambiguity that I was pleased with, and that I didn't want to disrupt that too much. And then with this second draft, I did kind of lean into throwing everything against the wall to see what would stick more than I had in the first one. And I took some departures in form, and I tried some more surreality, and I am now noticing how much that tipped some people's feeling or interpretation about the intentions behind the piece. And so I think I've had when you're all in person and you're hearing your work, it's such a, like, I don't know, for me anyway, when I am in person hearing something that I've written, I kind of leave my body. It's so overwhelming, and I get so self-conscious. And my son actually noticed the other night that one of the most draining parts of being on Zoom is when your camera's on you. And if you can turn your camera off for a little bit, you actually get a break. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was...
You hear things better too.
Yeah. And so I think because when we do these readings, I'm not visible, it helps me to sort of get over myself in a way. And so I was able to hear in the feedback session yesterday sort of the effect of the changes I had made, not just on the play, but on the people listening to it. And so that's a big gift. I don't yet know exactly how I'm going to metabolize all of that information. But it got me a lot further, a lot more quickly than if we were all sitting in the room and I was, having to wade through all of my own, the emotions that come up around the immediacy of sharing space and sharing work and being around other people. So that's a great question, actually, Jay.
Just want to say thank you for watching, and thank you so much for supporting OHI, as you all have for so many years, and now for supporting the OHI Foundry Project, which we have all fallen in love with so much. Yeah. So thanks, and bye.
Bye.
All right.